Hello, everybody out there in YouTube land this morning. All my chatters and my Memorex viewers that'll see the show later on today. Lovely to have you with us. Everybody. This is just a wonderful day here, the 13th day of July 2016. Man, oh man, it is a hot one here in Indiana this morning. It is already up to 85 degrees, 75% humidity. You stand outside very long, you'll melt right into your shoes. It's scorcher. I got up at the crack of 4 early this morning, went out and picked gooseberries, and I've got them all washed up and ready to go. I'll probably freeze them up, and this winter I'll make me a nice gooseberry pie when the snows are flying outside. And gooseberries are good and sweet too. I tasted a couple of them there as I was picking them. Man, oh man. I got a few holes in my hands to prove I picked them too. These gooseberries have thorns on them. But I got that over with. And today is the anniversary of the show. 1 month we've been rolling here with Level-Headed News. Covered a lot of ground. On one hand, it seems like, when you look at all the news stories, it's man, oh man, it's only been a month. And then on the other hand, it just seems like yesterday we started this thing up. It's been very successful thanks to you viewers, and this is what it's about, bringing the news to you and trying to entertain you a little bit, bring in some guests once in a while. I'm working on a few people for guests and waiting for some of them to get back to me with dates that they want to be on the show, and we'll have some fun with this thing and just let it roll wherever it takes us. Today I've got a lot of news to bring you, so we're going to jump right on into it this morning. I put all the URLs in the description box of the video so you can take a look at all this stuff. I know last few days I've been a little discombobulated and didn't have everything lined out before the show and had to put them in after the show. But today I did a little bit better. We'll see if we can cover all this stuff in the hour. If not, maybe we might run over a little bit. We'll try to get it all in here, but I'll just kind of go down through them and get started telling you some of the things that I found for you. This is off of Red Flag. Atlanta considering citywide curfews and mobilizing National Guard over anti-police protests. Citing a police department which is exhausted from working 12-hour shifts for 5 days straight, the mayor of Atlanta will talk with the police chief tonight about imposing a citywide curfew and asking the governor to deploy the National Guard into the city. This may, they left out some words here, I think. This May, the actual declaration of martial law in an American city. This is a rapidly developing story, and that's all that article says on it. But you can be taking a look for Atlanta in your research, Atlanta curfews, and see what all else comes up on that. We got that one. Then let's see, the next one that I've got here is called, it's out of the Political Insider. I'll plug them first. And it says, top Democrat official shot to death in Washington, D.C. This was breaking news yesterday when I grabbed it. Top staffer in the Democratic National Committee was fatally shot in Washington, D.C. Sunday. Seth Conrad Rich was shot several times a block from his home in D.C.'s neighborhood of Bloomingdale. And it says he wanted to make a difference, said the victim's father, Joel Rich, 68, phone interview from his home in Omaha, Nebraska. Politics was in his blood. The younger Rich had worked on computer database to help voters identify and map their individual polling locations. In his spare time, he volunteered at the Humane Society taking care of dogs. Acting D.C. Police Captain Anthony Haith, head of homicide unit, said detectives have no suspects and are looking into all possible motives. He said there were no witnesses and police are trying to determine if any part of the crime was caught on surveillance video. Haith pleaded for anyone with information to come forward. Rich was the voter expansion data director, and DNC chair Debbie Wasserman Schultz issued this statement. Our hearts are broken with the loss of one of our DNC family members over the weekend. Seth Rich was dedicated, selfless public servant who worked tirelessly to protect the most sacred right we share as Americans, the right to vote, she said. He saw the great potential of our nation and believed that together we can make the world a better place. And there's several pictures of him here. So I will, well, like I say, I've already put the URL in the description, so you've got that to look at. And then let's see, we'll go down here and find another one. CNN. This is off of BPR, BizPac Review. CNN reporters suggest Black Lives Matter should be allowed to break whatever law to block city streets. A Black Lives Matter mobs coursed through the country over the last week, disrupting cities, indulging property destruction, and attacking police. CNN had an idea on how authorities should react to the protests. Let protesters do whatever they want so they can work it out, they said. After unrest across the country, CNN reporter Victor Blackwell seemed outraged that BLM activist DeRay McKesson was arrested for illegally obstructing a highway in Baton Rouge, Louisiana, as he participated in a protest there. On Newsday Sunday, Blackwell asked CNN law enforcement analyst Art Roderick why the police in New York allowed BLM activists to block streets while protesting, but police in Louisiana resorted to arresting McKesson for breaking whatever law. Blackwell seemed pained that McKesson was arrested for simple obstruction of a highway, and led Roderick to idea that cities should allow BLM activists to do whatever they wanted unmolested by law enforcement. Such a hands-off policy, Blackwell seemed to be suggesting, was the only way to keep peace. In reply, analyst Roderick slammed police in Baton Rouge, Louisiana for enforcing the laws, saying New York is probably a lot more used to this type of protest and they know how to handle this particular situation. Baton Rouge, maybe not so much. Roderick then went on to say that eventually police in Baton Rouge will learn to let BLM protesters break any law they want during their protest. Roderick insisted Baton Rouge would learn through this process that, even though they might not be permitted, let's let them protest. Let's let them work it out. After the segment was over, it became obvious that both reporters Blackwell and analyst Roderick were of the mind that BLM activists should be given the free hand to do whatever they want as they protest. As Newsbusters so eloquently noted in the interview, Roderick seemed to be channeling Baltimore City Mayor Stephanie Rawlings Blake, whose administration infamously gave rioters space to destroy following the controversial death of Freddie Gray. And where were these guys during the Malheur Wildlife Refuge thing? Why weren't they saying that those guys should just be allowed to do what they want and not be arrested? I mean, those fellas are still in jail up there in Oregon. Just my 2 cents. Okay, well, let's see what else we got here. Well, try that again. Okay, this one is off of BizPac Review. Illegal immigrants now receiving up to $2.1 billion in food stamps, but that's just the beginning. Illegal immigrants are receiving billions in welfare programs like food stamps, even though their immigration status is supposed to block them from federal programs like this. According to a report by the Washington Examiner, illegal immigrants in the country are getting about $1.4 billion to $2.1 billion a year in food stamps. To add insult to injury, households with illegal immigrants are vastly favored under the food stamp program over households with U.S. citizens. Approximately 460,000 to 700,000 with a mix of legal and illegal households in the country are operating on food stamp program, with monthly payouts to these households being roughly $255 a month. Average U.S. citizen families of 3 can receive more than $2,177, but households with illegal immigrants can receive even more than that, the report found. Wow. It's no wonder everybody trying to get on the dole, is it? Okay, let's see what we got next here. This is out of BizPac Review. Unhinged Minnesota riders drop concrete block on officer's head, breaking his spine. Black Lives Matter protests in Minnesota turned violent on Sunday, sending one cop to the hospital and resulting in the arrest of more than 100 protesters. The protests were sparked by the shooting death of Philandro Castile by a police officer on Wednesday. Demonstrators blocked off part of Interstate 94, and around 10 p.m., police donned riot gear, asked the crowd to leave for the 16th time, the Minnesota Star Tribune reported. The crowd hit police with glass, bricks, rocks, concrete, Molotov cocktails, and firecrackers until officers were forced to respond with tear gas and pepper spray, according to KARE. The St. Paul Police Department was also keeping up on social media with the riots. One of the officers, who reportedly had concrete block dropped on his head, suffered a spinal fracture. Social media has been filled with those who say the police are overreacting with riot gear and other means to protect themselves, but there was at least one tweet that put it all in perspective. St. Paul Police Chief Todd Axtell provided the following statement. Last night really was the first time in many 28 years as a police officer that I had observed the level of violence that was directed toward public servants, said St. Paul Police Chief Todd Axtell in a press conference on Sunday morning. It's really a disgrace protesters last night turned into criminals. I'm absolutely disgusted by the actions of some. We will not tolerate it. Castile's mother, Valerie Castile, called the actions disrespectful to the memory of her son and called for peace in a statement. On behalf of myself and our entire family, we urge all people to remain peaceful in all demonstrations throughout our community and our nation. When demonstrations become violent, it disrespects my son and his memory. Philandro was a man of peace and dignity. Please, I ask you all to, or ask you at all times, remain peaceful in your expressions of concern regarding his death at the hands of the police. I promise that we will not rest until justice prevails, she said. So there's that one, and we'll move on down here to the next one. Give it a second to come up. This is off of BizPac Review as well. Retired Sergeant pens moving letter urging Americans to look beyond the badge. Retired Ohio Police Sergeant Timothy Clark shared with BizPac Review a letter he wrote about the arduous job of being police officer, a job that often goes without thanks or praise, especially in today's hostile and anti-police climate. Clark describes to the private citizen that what they see is often not the day-to-day reality behind the badge. Clark told VPR that he was deeply moved after reading fellow officer Jay Steeland's raw account of the perils law enforcement officers increasingly face. Clark said as a white man he can't experience the extent of Steeland's frustration, who is African American, but wants to let him know that he is not alone. Clark provided his poignant letter to VPR, which we are proudly posting with the hopes it will help awaken minds and soften hearts. And here it goes. It says, Dear private citizen, unless you wear a badge, have worn a badge, have a spouse, parent, or son or daughter, brother, sister, aunt, uncle who has worn or is wearing a badge, you have no idea what being a law enforcement officer is about. You see us sitting in a cruiser stationary in park with our head down, sleeping. You think in reality we are probably working on finishing a report. You see us cruising your neighborhood time and time again, overpaid and wasting the taxpayers' gas money. You think. In reality, we may be looking for a lost child or the suspect in a home burglary that happened the next street over just a few minutes before. You see us walking through bars or driving through a liquor establishment's parking lot, fishing for drunks and harassing patrons, you think. In reality, we're looking for trouble, which often involves alcohol or providing an extra presence because of the robbery of a patron the week before in that very same lot. You see 2, maybe 3 cruisers parked at a restaurant or coffee shop, goofing off, you think. In reality, we finally had a lull in the never-ending stream of calls for service for the first time during our shift and are whooping down a meal, maybe only partial meal because we are subject to being called upon to respond to an incident or any moment, lunch time or not. You see us alongside the road on a car stop talking to a motorist trying to make that ticket quota. You think in reality we may be assisting someone with vehicle trouble, giving directions, or handling a road rage incident, which is becoming more and more frequent with every passing day. You see us at high school basketball or football games, working security, leaning against a wall or fence, lazy, you think. In reality, we may be combating a bad back, bad knee, or bad hip, and leaning against something solid may be the only way to get some semblance of relief. Bad backs, hips, and knees are an affliction most cops develop during years on the job. You see us on foot patrol in a downtown area, constantly going in and out of shops and businesses. Shopping on the job, you think. In reality, we're building relationships and trust with shop owners. You see us talking to a group of young people on a basketball court, in a park, or on a street corner, harassing those kids, you think. In reality, we're trying to make a difference in the young people's lives, trying to show today's youth that we, the police, are not the enemy, and that they alone have the ability to choose what path they will take. It's called community-based policing. You get to know the people you serve and protect so that they don't only see you when something bad happens. The officer becomes a familiar face in the neighborhood. What you, the private citizen, don't see on a daily basis is the worst of humanity. You don't see the death, the despair that's bad enough to make someone want to end their life. You don't see the abused children covered with bites from bed bugs and living amidst animal feces while their parent is out drinking or smoking crack, leaving the kids to tend to themselves. I don't see us sitting, or you don't see us sitting in a cruiser crying because we just handled a call involving the death of an infant due to neglect. We're crying because we have an infant at home the same age. You don't see us when we're at 0300 hours on the most bitterly frigid night of winter with the wind chill at minus 20 degrees. We're looking for the dementia-afflicted elderly woman who wandered out of her home clad only in a nightgown. We're trying to find her before frostbite and hypothermia end her life. You don't see the inner rage when one of your brothers or sisters runs afoul of the law, knowing that, once again, the media and public opinion will paint you all with the broad brush of dirty cops. You don't see the broken relationships caused by pressures of the job. It takes a very special individual to be the spouse of a police officer, someone with patience and understanding, someone who knows they are the rock on which we lean. You don't see the officers absent from Christmas and Thanksgiving family gatherings because they had to work. You don't see us at our kids' sporting events and school plays because of the job. You don't see or feel fear and apprehension when we get sent to a call involving a gun and someone who has either already used it or fully intends to, knowing that we, the police, have to respond. There's no one else, no others, but those of us who are sworn to protect the public, knowing we could lose our lives in the process of apprehending the offender. You don't see us grieving at the loss of yet another brother or sister of the bad, wondering if maybe, just maybe, our time will be next. You're not there at 0400 hours knocking on the door of a home and knowing that you are about to devastate a family inside by telling them their only son, 15-year-old, who had snuck out of the home after his parents had gone to bed, had been killed in a traffic crash. You also weren't there 2 hours earlier investigating that accident in the pouring rain, having seen that son's mangled, unrecognizable form. You haven't seen the body crushed flat by heavy equipment in an industrial accident, the victim's internal organs lying on top of the shop floor beside him because the sheer weight of the machinery blew them out of his abdomen. The old farmer who hung himself in his barn at sunrise because he thought he had cancer. The young teen on foot who decided to try cross tracks ahead of a freight train on a dare and lost. You didn't watch the distraught husband locked in his car shoot himself in the head while looking you straight in the eye, all because his wife had left him for another man after the victim had been diagnosed with terminal disease. You didn't see the woman stabbed 33 times by her enraged boyfriend lying dead in a room whose walls looked as if they'd been splattered with red paint, while her 3 young children were sleeping downstairs on the bare wood floors on Thanksgiving morning. You, dear citizen, weren't there to witness those terrible events, those tragic incidents. We were. We pay a price every day for having been there. Sometimes, for some of us, for the rest of our days on this earth. So the next time you see a police officer on duty, try not to jump to conclusions. Think about what you haven't seen and what we have. Stalene wrote the letter 4 months ago when it was picked up by a local church who used it to honor law enforcement. So there you have that. And we'll go to the next one. This is off of BizPac Review as well. Louis Gohmert to Loretta Lynch. How much time did you spend on the Hillary case? Representative Louis Gohmert accused Attorney General Loretta Lynch of dodging his question during a House committee meeting. Lynch faced the committee investigating the FBI's recommendation not to seek criminal charges against Hillary Clinton and her email scandal on Tuesday. Gohmert peppered Lynch with questions about her actions and subsequent decision to follow the recommendations of the team investigating the emails. The Texas Republican asked Lynch directly if she had read Clinton's recorded testimony, repeatedly questioning if she had done her own research before clearing Clinton of charges. Lynch continued to evade a direct answer, instead referring back to her previous statements. If you're not going to answer the question, then let's move on, Gohmert said. I find it extraordinary that after a 3.5-hour interview, so quickly a recommendation is made, he said. I am shocked. I thought it would be weeks before an answer could be made. Your oath was not to follow the recommendation of some team, Gohmert cautioned the Attorney General. Your oath is to own responsibility to our Constitution and those that are working under you. Sounded like he called her out. Bet it don't go nowhere. Let's see what this next one is here that I got. This is off BizPac Review. Media wants all eyes on Obama because look what happened as House Rep grilled Attorney General Lynch today. This is another one on the same topic. Attorney General Loretta Lynch is the hot seat Tuesday over her handling of the investigation into Hillary Clinton's private email server. It was the beginning of a tough afternoon for Lynch, as representative after representative grilled her on why she chose not to bring charges against Clinton for mishandling classified emails. During the questioning by lawmakers, Lynch continued to deflect the excuse that she deferred to the recommendation of FBI Director James Comey and career agents and prosecutors. That response didn't work for a number of representatives, including Illinois Rep. Jim Sensenbrenner, who scolded Lynch. You are in charge of the Department of Justice. The buck stops with you, he said. Sensenbrenner cited a case of a military service member being prosecuted for emails or emailing a warning out to his fellow personnel about an imminent danger and said the public senses that there is a double standard. You have a problem, Madam Attorney General, he said. Ohio Representative Steve Cabot concurred. Virtually anybody else, there would have been charges brought for a crime, he said. Cabot then mentioned in the impeachment case against former President Bill Clinton. He lied, committed perjury, Cabot said. Every American, including the President of the United States, including a candidate for the highest office in our land, ought to be treated equally under the law, he said. In this case, I think it's a travesty because I don't think Hillary Clinton has been treated like any other American would have been treated under the same circumstance. And then it says, stay tuned. This was just the first round of fireworks. BPR has more coming. So I'm sure I'll be seeing more on the Hillary thing. I don't think Loretta Lynch is going to stand accountable for this, but it sure is fun watching them grill her. Oh, let's see here. The next one is off of Dave Hodges, The Common Sense Show. And this is called 37 Separate Acts of Potential Terrorism Are Planned for This Friday. Over 2 years ago, I wrote an article on the growing perception of police brutality, which seems to have racial overtones. At that time, I had undeniably called for the prosecution of police officers who were engaged in police brutality. In other articles, I've called for an end to the practice in which police are allowed to investigate themselves in regard to allegations of police brutality. The Common Sense Show will never support any act of police brutality. Therefore, spare me the allegations of racism with regard to the following. The real racists belong to mainstream media. When a white Hispanic person dies a suspicious death in police custody, the media ignores the event as if it did not happen. Don't white lives matter? Don't Latino lives matter? Don't Asian lives matter? From the media's perspective, we need to be asking, why are black lives the only lives that matter when it comes to alleged police brutality? Former cop and author Peter Moskos cites statistics which demonstrate that more whites are killed by cops than are blacks. From raw statistic perspective, Moskos is correct. However, when accounts for the fact that whites comprise about most of the nation's population, the applied statistics tell us that blacks are about 3 times more likely to be killed by whites. However, this disparity, as tragic as it is, does not excuse the racist media for failing to cover all racists who are victims of police brutality. The data clearly tells us that what have is not totally a racial problem. I think it's what we have. Okay. See, these articles are not without their own typographical errors. It is police enforcement issue. However, there is another statistic that nobody has ever bothered to cover. For every 10,000 arrests of blacks, how many are victims of police brutality? A comparative analysis of these numbers among all people arrested by race would tell America police brutality is disproportionately aimed at blacks. Until this question is asked, researched, and answered, claims of racism leveled toward police departments is unproven. The same question regarding police brutality needs to be asked for every other racial group, and it is not, because Fox, CNN, CBS, etc. are fermenting a race war because it is what the owners of the 6 corporations that own 98% of the media want. Why does Clinton, Obama, Lynch, and the rest of the criminal elite want a race war? I should really ask more challenging questions because the answer to the following question is ubiquitous. Growing racial tensions with BLMs and Soros as the antagonist grows. A race war culminating in martial law solves a lot of problems for the criminal elite. It provides a distraction from Hillary Clinton's serial criminality so the criminal elite can get their henchmen in the Oval Office so they can continue with the destruction of our nation's economy, political structure, and cultural values. And number 2, helter-skelter summer prevents people from uniting against the real enemy, the bankers who have plundered our national economy through free trading agreements and getting the government to get the people to assume the credit swap or derivatives debt. For black people who wonder why there are so few jobs for black youth, look at what I wrote in the previous sentence. Therein lies the answer. We have 101 million working age adults in this country not working full time, as opposed to 97 million who are. Why? Because most of our jobs have been shipped overseas by greedy and treasonous corporations under the auspices of a Benedict Arnold Congress. It is not a white conspiracy. It is a banking conspiracy being leveled against people of all races in America. George Soros, David Rockefeller, and every member of Congress and Senate, President Obama and Hillary Clinton are the enemy of all middle-class Americans or those who aspire to be middle class. And the media fills black people's minds with this pseudo-racist crap, and some are believing. Wolf, Karl Marx, Bildster interpretation of events. When was the last time that CNN reported on black crime? Answer: they never have, though the FBI maintains these statistics and all crimes committed black on black accounts from the most prevalent crime statistic in our society. And this is not a matter of race, it's a factor of economics. And why are black people disproportionately poor versus whites? I answered that question when I identified the banker and politicians who are the enemy of all Americans. If young black youth keep listening to the distorted messages in the media, let me tell you where this is headed. There will be widespread rioting. People are going to die. Martial law is going to be imposed, and BLM will not be protesting any longer, and the majority of martial law occupiers will be foreign and wearing blue helmets, and they are not going to give a damn about racial civil rights issues, because the civil rights of all Americans will be gone as the UN ushers in the New World Order, in which all Americans, black, white, brown, etc., will be on the endangered species list. I state all of this for one reason, and one reason only. The actions of George Soros' Black Lives Matter organization are reprehensible, and this organization should be considered to be domestic terror organization. To those who would label me racist, I refer you to the opening paragraphs of this article, in which I have been an outspoken critic of alleged police brutality. The undeniable purpose of the BLM. Former Nazi collaborator George Soros created BLM and MoveOn.org for one reason, and that reason would be to divide the country and catapult the country into nationwide violence against police officers and anyone who is white. Racism is racism, regardless of which side of the fence that it emanates from. Most black people I know are repulsed by the organization whose members celebrate the mass murder of 5 police officers and call for more acts of violence. However, the media will not report that most people or any color consider any organization created by Soros to be a terrorist organization. In short, all prosecutors should employ the tactics of Dr. Martin Luther King in order to bring about change from unresponsive local government. He did not call for the assassination of police officers. The next potential act of domestic terrorism is planned for this Friday. I'm publishing a list of places that this madness is going to continue so that reasonable people of all races can avoid these hot zones, which could serve as the impetus for martial law. And then there is this list. And it starts out, terror alert, avoid these locations at all costs, nationwide call to action, July 15th, 2016, 7 p.m. Eastern Time, 6 p.m. Central Time, 5 p.m. Mountain Time, 4 p.m. Pacific Time. And then the list is as follows. Phoenix, East Lake Park, Tucson, Catalina Park. And this is going to be in the description, so everybody, take a look at this, because it also gives times. I'm not going to, give all the times, and it gives addresses and locations as well. Phoenix and Tucson, Little Rock, San Francisco, Oakland, Los Angeles, Denver, Washington, D.C., Atlanta, Tampa, Orlando, Miami, Chicago, Des Moines, New Orleans, Baltimore, Boston, Detroit, Lansing, Ann Arbor, Minneapolis, St. Louis, Carson City, Manhattan, Newark, Durham, Columbus, Cleveland, Portland, Philadelphia, Pittsburgh, Nashville, Memphis, Austin, Salt Lake City, Seattle, and Milwaukee. That's 37 locations listed. So you're going to want to take a look at that one. The last sentence of this is, when is Soros going to be arrested for inciting violence? So if you live in any of those areas or know anybody that does live in any of those areas, you might want to go to that URL, pull it up, take a look at the locations, forward that on to anybody that lives in any of those locations or may be in any of those locations, so that they are aware of the areas to steer clear of. It could save their life. So now we shall move to the next one. Well, let's see, that and then wanting to come up. Let me hit that one again. Here it comes. This is off of right.is. Federal lawsuit accuses Obama holder Sharpton of inciting a race war. President Barack Obama, former Attorney General Eric Holder, professional race baiter Al Sharpton, Nation of Islam leader Louis Farrakhan and the leaders of the Black Lives Matter movement are all named as defendants in a federal class action lawsuit which alleges they've initiated race war in the United States. The lawsuit was filed by former prosecutor and conservative activist Larry Klayman following the shooting of 5 police officers, 5 of whom died earlier this month. These defendants have incited violence and, in fact, have direct link to what happened in Dallas, said Klayman. I hope that lawsuit enforcement in Dallas and around the nation will join our class action. It's a peaceful, legal means to fight this. We've had it. People are finally starting to speak out. The lawsuit, seeking more than $2 billion in damages, accuses the defendants of violating the civil rights and law enforcement officers, promoting terrorism, and aiding and abetting murder. The defendants have publicly incited people to violence with the fiction that police officers and other law enforcement are intentionally and systematically targeting and hunting blacks and other minorities to kill them for no reason other than racism or sport, the complaint said. For that reason, Klayman contends it's no surprise that former Army reservist Micah Johnson stated a desire to kill white police officers following the highly publicized deaths of 2 black men during police interactions. Defendants, the lawsuit says, have on more than one occasion called for immediate violence and severe bodily injury or death to be brought upon law enforcement officers throughout the nation. Defendants are encouraged disaffected blacks and black Muslims to ignore, disrespect, and assault law enforcement officials and commit violence and lethal force, the complaint says. Furthermore, the complaint alleges that policies from the Obama-Holder Justice Department have emboldened criminals with anti-police sentiment, suggesting that more attacks will occur. From the complaint, defendants Obama and Holder began almost immediately at the start of the Obama administration to undermine the nation's police officers and other law enforcement when on July 16, 2009, Harvard University professor Henry Louis Gates Jr. was arrested at his Cambridge, Massachusetts home by a local police officer responding to a neighbor's 911 call of men breaking and entering the residence. Ignoring, as always, that the policeman was called by a report from the neighbors that a man was breaking in. Gates had been absent for a long time. President Obama stoked racial animosity by accusing the police of acting stupidly after admitting he did not know what happened. And then there is a link in this article where you can read the entire complaint. So that one you might want to take a look at. Wow, we're wheeling down on this. I'm doing good today. Okay. This one is off of, what do they call this? Breitbart, Big Government. And it's called Citizens with AR-15 Stand Guard Outside Texas Police Departments. On July 9th, 2 days after the heinous ambush on Dallas police officers, citizens armed with AR-15s stood guard outside various police departments in Texas. According to the Montgomery County Police reporter, James Evans, Roger Tarrant, and Paul Wilson went to the Patton Village Police Department with their AR-15s in hand and stood guard. They also stood outside the city of Splendora Police Department, where passing drivers honked their horns in approval, while others stopped for photos, selfies, and to personally thank them for what they're doing. In fact, men garnered so much report in the form of food and bottled water that they began stacking food on the hoods of their pickup trucks so well-wishers could see they already had more than they could handle. Traffic outside the SPD became so bad that the department used Facebook posts to urge drivers to keep moving. And I'm trying to stop this video thing. I think it's an advertising thing that's trying to come up and play. And I don't want to put the kibosh on that, so we don't have an issue there. Okay. All right. Um, citizens of the city of Splendora, the SPD, is aware of the individuals in the front of City Hall today. SPD officer, along with outside law enforcement agency officers, have already made contact with them. They were not viewed committing any criminal offenses. They were very cooperative and understanding when discussed firearms safety. They showed no danger to any persons when we made contact with them. They are showing support for local law enforcement agencies, which is appreciated in this hard time for the state of Texas and the country is going through. For the safety of drivers on the roadway, we ask citizens driving by, taking pictures, not to stop in the roadway due to it can cause traffic hazard or wreck. Thank you to our great city in East Montgomery County for the positive support. Evans said he just wanted to show the police that civilians stood by them, that they aren't alone. He added, I am tired of seeing officers slain for doing their job. So there's that one, which is a little heartwarming article. And we'll bring this next and up here. This is off the Political Insider. Top Democrat official shot to death in Washington, D.C. This is, I think, more of the same of the other one. And we got this silly ad playing here. So let's see if we can get that silliness to stop.
Guys, this is just some.
Maybe not. Okay. Well, you can take a look at this one in your URLs. Yeah, this is more the same of that one that I brought up earlier, that young man that was shot in Washington, D.C. And then we have let me slide this over so I can read it. Breaking off of the CT Tribune. New Black Panthers announced their plan. Get ready for martial law. If you thought violence has ripped through America in the past week, it's horrific, the New Black Panthers would like you to know that it's just the beginning. In an interview with Aaron Klein Investigative Radio this week, Babu Amwali, who claims to be the defense minister of the New Black Panthers, said his group is attempting to form our own government in a nation within a nation. I hope you're paying attention to this. According to Breitbart, the 5 states that would make up this nation within a nation would be Alabama, Georgia, Louisiana, Mississippi, and South Carolina. Asked what his end game was, Amawali responded, the end game is land ownership. The end game is our own government in a nation within a nation. Okay, so we claim the states of Louisiana, we claim the states of Mississippi, we claim the state of South Carolina, we claim states of Alabama, we claim the states of Georgia, Amwali said. We just need to start migrating back to those states and taking control of the economics in those states. If black people move in, most definitely white people will move out. So it's not a hard process for us to have our own country within a country. While he said those are long-term goals, he has short-term goals too. There's no way that we can totally separate ourselves in the United States of America, and we are aware of that. We know that we are owned land, we are owned monies, we are owed, we know that we are owed land, we are owed monies, we are owed restitutions, and we are owed reparations, Amawali said. That's going to be a continuing process. What we're trying right now is we want to control the economics in our community. We want to control the black dollars, the money that goes in, the money that goes out. We want to control the politics in our community. If a politician is not bringing anything to the table for the betterment of that community, we're not going to vote for these particular people. And we most definitely want to control the education, what our people are learning in what we call the public school, what we call the public fool system, not school system, where they are teaching and misrepresenting the true history of black men here in the United States. In other words, they are more or less want racially enforced reverse apartheid, and a system where widespread opposition to anything that involves white people is enforced with a dictatorial fist of the law. Make no mistake, what Black Panthers are proposing is a breakaway state that violates almost every constitutional right we have. In that state, we would not have any of our constitutional rights or the right to even own anything, as proven by Omowale's comment about we want to control the politics in our community. In such a state, martial law in the South would be necessary to enforce the most basic laws of the land. Is this what we want as a nation? So, as all I can say on that one is forewarned is forearmed. Man, I can't make this stuff up. And I'll tell you what, I just breezed through that in 45 minutes. Wow, am I good or what? Lord have mercy. I'll take a little look here, see if there's anything going on in the chat room, because, you know, when I'm reading all that stuff, I can't pay a whole lot of attention to what's going on. But it looks like we've gained a few folks there in the chat room, and I'm glad to have y'all there with me today. Hope you're enjoying these articles that I'm bringing you, because, you know, it takes a little bit to gather all this up, try to have it in some kind of organized sense of direction. But I found one more thing that I wanted to share with everybody, and it is a YouTube video. I kind of covered this a while ago in one of the articles that I read, but it's a 4-minute long video that kind of sums up what's been going on in the last week, I think, and might make everybody, you know, take heed and think a little bit more about other people instead of themselves. So what I would like to do here with this is I want to try to do a screen share on it and bring it up so you guys can take a look at it, and we'll close the show out with that one today. So before I bring it up, I'll just go ahead and say goodbye to all of you for today. I hope you join me tomorrow, Thursday, on the 14th of July, and we'll see what all kinds of things I come up in the next 24 hours for you. Thank you for joining in the chat. Thank you for viewing later, those of you that come in late and watch it on Memorex. But I think you will enjoy this video. So we're going to try to do the screen share here and get it all fixed up for you so that you can see it and enjoy it. Let's see, we'll pop on that and hit share. Hopefully I've got the right thing here, and we'll hit play.
Private citizens, unless you wear a badge, have worn a badge, have a spouse, parent, son, daughter, aunt, or uncle who has worn or is wearing a badge, you have no idea what being a law enforcement officer is about. You see us sitting in a cruiser, stationary in a park with our head down, sleeping, you think. In reality, we are probably working on a report. You see us cruising your neighborhood time and time again, overpaying and wasting the taxpayers' gas money. You see 2, maybe 3 cruisers parked at a restaurant or coffee shop, goofing off, you think. In reality, we finally had a lull in the never-ending stream of calls for service for the first time during our shift, and are wolfing down a meal. You see us alongside the road on a car stop, talking to a motorist, trying to make that ticket quota, you think. In reality, we may be assisting someone with vehicle trouble, giving directions, or handling a road rage incident. You see us talking to a group of young people at a basketball court, in a park, or on a street corner, harassing those kids, you think. In reality, we're trying to make a difference in young lives, trying to show today's youth that we, the police, are not the enemy, and that they alone have the ability to choose what path in life they will take. What you, the private citizen, don't see on a daily basis is the worst of humanity. You don't see the abused children, covered with bites from bed bugs and living amidst animal feces while a parent is out drinking, leaving the kids to fend for themselves. You don't see us sitting in the cruiser crying because we just handled a call involving the death of an infant due to neglect. We're crying because we have an infant at home the same age. You don't see the officers absent from Christmas and Thanksgiving family gatherings because they had to work. You don't see us at our kids' sporting events and school plays because of the job. You don't see or feel the fear and apprehension when we get sent to a call involving a gun and someone who has already used it or fully intends to, knowing that we, the police, have to respond. There's no one else. No others but those of us who are sworn to protect the public. You're not there at 0400 hours, knocking on the door of a home and knowing you are about to devastate the family inside by telling them their only son, a 15-year-old who had sneaked out of the home, had been killed in a traffic crash. You didn't watch the distraught man locked in his car shoot himself. You, dear citizens, weren't there to witness those terrible events, those tragic incidents. We were. And we pay a price every day. Sometimes for some of us, for the rest of our days on this earth. Next time you see a police officer on duty, try not to jump to conclusions. Think about what you haven't seen and what we have. So today, we honor you, first responders, for all that you do to make our community a safe place to live. Please stand and give our fellow first responders a warm welcome for being here today.
Okay, I hope you enjoyed that. I know I did. I thought that was a really nice video. It kind of makes you stop and think about what's going on. Gives a little fresh perspective to it. So with that, we will thank you all for joining. Hope you have a wonderful day. Try to stay cool because it is hot out there. Put your feet in some ice water and try to stay cool. And we will see you back here tomorrow at noon Eastern. Thank you so very much.